The only obstacle to the complete fulfillment of the sinister designs of the Muldonites was the publicity given at home and abroad to the charges made and filed by some 20 pastors and myself against Muldoon and his clerical supporters, including Papal Delegate Martinelli, Cardinal Gibbons, and other members of the Sacred College of Cardinals. At this very time, our charges were being aired in the public press. Typewritten copies of Cashman's poems were freely circulated and mailed to the Pope and his cabinet, the Sacred College of Cardinals, including Slippery Jim and the Dago. Rome knew full well that Cashman received his inspiration from Archbishop Ireland and his gang of ecclesiastics who hoped to see Archbishop Ireland landed Archbishop of Chicago as a preliminary step to a red hat. She feared further exposures and even a schism, of which indeed Archbishop Katzer of Milwaukee warned Leo the 13th if he dared promote Muldoon to the Archbishopric of Chicago. Under the circumstances, the Pope and his cabinet, notwithstanding the liberal honorariums which they had received, did not dare to hand over a graft of some $50 million to Muldoon and his supporters. This is the story in brief, on which the following poems of Reverend Cashman and O'Brien were based, and is the principal reason why Archbishop Ireland was not among the recent American cardinals. He is dead, Pete is ahead. Where were the words of the vile? He is dead, Pete is ahead. Were the words of the vile McCann? We've got the votes, and by our oaths we'll have no other man. Kelly, call in your sleek henchmen, and bid them to their work. Fill them with fear or lager beer. They've got the souls of a Turk. What care we for law? When to fill our maw, we've power and place and pelf. So vote for Petty and his darling Kitty, and you can all have a girl for yourself. Call in your mokes and let us coax those micks that block our game with empty words and fake rewards. What matter? It's all the same. Sure, Pete will throw his vote below, where 'twill do the greatest good, while McGavick and Lang and the rest of the gang and Barry what he would. And O'Flaherty, Drake and Gavin the snake and fits of colorless fame, with the giant Slav and Mooney suave, who sponsored Peter's name. The vote was cast, but the game was lost. Muldoon was turned down, the Angels' Church left Pete in the lurch, and the gang must quit the town. Nowhere in history is there such mystery, and the patience of God with the folly of men who gambled for croziers as though they were osiers, and played the vile game of old Magus again. But just as their scheme was about to obtain, by corruption and fraud, a mitre to win, a voice from old Rome cried, "Avaunt, Muldoon! You're a foul and nasty, a lecherous thing! Out, out from my altar, like Judas get a halter, and rid the fair earth of your putrid being." And now exit Muldoon, he's gone to the land of gloom, with Kitty's harlot petticoat upon him. His boodle would not go, nor the vagaries of Lowe, or the silly tales of Hearst or Lawson. Mr. Hearst, proprietor, Chicago American and Examiner. Mr. Lawson, proprietor, Chicago Daily News. For the Lord in his power struck the fatal hour, and the wrath of heaven was splendid. Of his comic opera booth the people had enough, and now the melodrama is ended. Thus, muse of Reverend Michael O'Brien, rector of St. Sylvester's Parish, Chicago, was also awakened, and will be seen by the following copy of some lines in his own handwriting, which he handed me for publication, telling me at the same time that he was assisted in composing them by the very Reverend Michael O'Sullivan, permanent rector of St. Bridget's Parish, Chicago. Bishops now are easy made, at man's caprice or whim. Martinelli his hands on Pete he had, for some American tin, and when Pete was mitred, he swore he would have revenge on the men that did oppose him unto the bitter end. But his enemies, but his enemies said, "No, Pete, by Jove, you will never succeed. Patty's throne is too big for you. On it, you will never take your seat. Moreover, you're a stammerer and an awful baboon. The rules of grammar are foreign to you. Why, you're a stuttering buffoon. And now, Pete, where are you? Where but in the mud? There are moths in your mitre, there are wrinkles in your hood. And Pete, where is your diocese? It is up in the moon. And where are you yourself, Pete? Up in a balloon, and you will topple down very soon. You were consecrated under fire, guarded by police. You have been in the fire ever since. You will never have a day's peace. Peeler McCarthy, did you take into the holy name? Or Martinelli, did you make a bishop just the same? And now, Pete, you have it. God knows what a And now, Pete, you have it. God knows by what fraud. You will never get a diocese, Pete. Rome knows your bad record. Reverend Hugh P. Smith, permanent rector of St. Mary's Parish, Evanston, Illinois, and one of the treasurers of our crusade fund, wrote me in part as follows. Our great trouble in Chicago is that our archdiocese, the greatest in the world, is governed not by an archbishop or bishop, but by one. Reverend number 14, celibacy inexpedient. Who would like to be one or the other or both? One who has too many irons in the fire, one who controls both church and state, one who suspends priests today and policemen tomorrow, one who alternately distributes parishes and aspiring pastors and boodle to hungry politicians, one who can give Chicago a mayor or a bishop and secures uniformity of action by holding both under his thumb. This is our poobah, our factotum, our power behind the throne. No wonder then that city hall methods dominate our ecclesiastical administration. In Chicago, we have not one city hall, but two, both adopting the same standard of morality, both applying the same system of rewarding friends and punishing enemies, and both holding in like contempt every principle of morality and justice.